All right, welcome back to another review. Today we're going to be talking about a lens adapter for the Ursa Mini 4K. So Lucadapters or Lucas adapters, I'm not quite sure exactly how to pronounce it, or Lucadapters. Anyway, Lucadapters sent me this piece of equipment. And I did tell him, I said, hey, if I don't like it, I'm gonna be really honest. I'm not gonna lie to my audience and say I like something that I don't or I wouldn't recommend. So this is my unbiased, very honest review of this product. So it's called the MagicBooster adapter. So basically what this MagicBooster does is it expands your field of view on the camera. If you remember in some of my old videos, I have comparison videos between the 4K and the 4.6K and how there is a crop factor a little bit more on the 4K than the 4.6K. It's about, I'm not sure what the ratio is, but it's significant enough that you notice it pretty good. I have the 4K model, which is just the MagicBooster, I guess regular, but it's just called MagicBooster. And then he also has a MagicBooster Ultra, which has better glass, as well as being able to work on the 4.6K. So first off, the adapter is different than any adapter I've ever used. So it came and he shipped it in this box, and I opened it up and it was real simple. It was just the adapter, a little suction cup, and like an O-ring type looking thing. So this isn't the actual adapter. This is the piece that you unscrew from inside the camera. The adapter is actually mounted inside, which is awesome. So the thing I love about that is that being mounted inside, I don't ever have to think about this adapter. It's just there, it's permanent. Switch lenses in and out, no problem. It's awesome. Now, the one thing that I'll say about this product is it's like a perfect monocle. Like, if you want a lens adapter for your eye, it does that. Actually, don't ever do that, just kidding. No, but in all seriousness, the only thing that I had issue with was putting it in, the install. I reached out to Lucadapters and he said, you know, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could do it yourself, which is what I did, or you could take it to like a camera shop, some sort of professional technician who can do it for you and probably be a lot safer. Now, I'm kind of a clumsy guy and I was able to do it just fine. Just be smart and you can do it just fine. It is very nerve-wracking to flip your camera over, pop it open, and like get these pieces out, and then you have to like loosen this O-ring. Anyway, I don't want to show you that. He did a video on it. It was fantastic. I used the video to install it, so link in the description to the video if you're interested in learning how to install the piece. So let's jump into the actual adapter and talk about the pros and cons. So let's go to a new location where I have my laptop after I've shot everything. What I used was the Sigma 18-35. The big thing I wanted to check was, will a crop lens still work on this sensor? And it worked fine. But when I put the Tokina 11-16 millimeter, when I was at 11, it did have a tiny bit of vignetting, which you can see here. You can see just in the corners. But the moment I just moved it to 12 millimeters, it was gone. So here we have the 4K at 18 millimeter on the 18-35, and this is without the filter in. And then here is it with the filter. So you can see it's a drastic difference. So it widens the field of view by about 20%. So if you compare the 4.6K to the 4K with the MagicBooster, you can tell that the MagicBooster actually makes just a tiny bit wider. Not a ton, but a tiny bit. And this is why I really liked it. Now I have two cameras that match the field of view, so I know, hey, I'm gonna throw 35 on my B cam, which is my 4K. Now it's gonna be the same, basically the same as throwing it on my 4.6K. Because I have both cameras, I do use the 4K as my B cam, and sometimes I throw an 85 on it, and I'm like, ooh, that's way too close, because I forget. Because I'm shooting most of the time on the 4.6K. It's really only in two camera setups that I use the 4K. But now it's nice to have that ability to see the two together, and they're basically matching, which is super awesome. And then I did a 35 millimeter, and same thing. You get about 20% more field of view with the adapter on the 4K. And then again, you can see here between the 4.6 and the 4K with the adapter, the slight difference. And it's just slightly wider. And then this is where it gets exciting. So the crop, when you're going to 120 frames per second on 4.6K and 4K, is pretty close to about the same. The 4.6K is just like maybe 6% wider, not that much, like field of view wise. But with this adapter, this is what amazed me. You can see here, so here's the 4K uncropped, and then here it is cropped with the adapter. And then here's the 4.6K uncropped and cropped. Now let's look at the crops next to each other. This is awesome. Look at that. Look at the huge difference there. Like my head's totally getting cut off, and then I have like so much more space. This is where the adapter like really got me excited. Before I was like, nah, yeah, it extends your field of view a little bit. That's cool, whatever. It extends your field of view, especially in crop, like when you're in crop mode. And that's where you need it the most, because it's so frustrating to me when I'm trying to shoot like some action slow-mo stuff and I have to be on an 11 and I still have to like back up way far away because it's like basically a 35. It's just like, it's frustrating. And here with the adapter, every little bit of that frame matters, and it's so awesome. I was so excited when I discovered that. That's a huge bonus. Now both my cameras can have the same field of view. And then when I'm doing slow motion on my 4K, I have a way wider field of view. I don't have to be so crazy wide. So there's one more test that I did that I realized it wasn't doing apples to apples, was I wanted to do a low light test between it, because typically when you expand your field of view, you're letting more light in, which is making it so your sensor is being able to pick up more of that light and making it obviously a brighter image. So I did a test, and I'll show you here. Really dark. This is without the filter, and then with the filter. Initially, I didn't think there was much of a difference between the two, but when you look closely at it, you can actually see with the MagicBooster, you are getting just a little bit more detail on that shirt. And then when you add just a quick, I'm just gonna add like a quick exposure thing. So if I take this exposure, and typically if the image is matched and I copy and paste this exposure over onto my other frame here, and then compare the two, you can see, especially around the light, how much brighter it is. And it is not a huge difference, but it is a little bit of a difference, which is really nice, especially when you're working with the 4K and your native ISO is only 400. Every bit of light really matters. So this is awesome. And then here's the 4.6K, and here's where the problem came in. With the 4.6K, I didn't change the ISO. So on the 4K, I had the native 400 ISO on, and then the 4.6K had the 800 native ISO. So I didn't take into account that I should match the 4.6K, because mostly I was just doing it for field of view. So then I went and just did a low light test in the Qualtrics studio, and you can see here, this is the 4.6K, and all the settings were exactly the same. I had the 400 ISO, same f-stop. I believe I was at a 4, and same color temperature. Just all the settings were exactly the same on both cameras. And you can see, other than the dynamic range being a little bit better, obviously on the 4.6K, the two images, light-wise, look basically the same. They match pretty close, a little closer than they had in the past on a lot of my videos. But I thought that was really interesting, that expanding your field of view like that would allow just that little bit extra light. I would say half a stop to a stop of light. That was like the difference. Okay, a few other things that I did to test it was I did do a lens flare test on it to see if it flared any different. I didn't notice any differences in the flares. The glass didn't feel like it distorted the image at all. I didn't see any vignetting around the edges, or any sort of blurriness around the edges of the image, which typically on some of the less expensive, not as well made adapters, that's what I noticed first. Is there's usually vignetting and blurriness on the sides of the image. Mostly in the corners that you see it. I didn't see it at all in this adapter, so huge thumbs up there. It's just crisp. It looks, basically to me, it feels like there's not even an adapter in it, as far as like adding extra glass or extra like distortion or anything like that. My sensor's now wider is what it feels like. My field of view is wider without having to deal with that. Because I've worked with the Metabones quite a few times, and the Metabones, I mean, their workaround is because they're attaching to the front of the camera, your focal plane is now off, and so you can't get infinity focus. That's typically what happens when you put adapters on. But what they've done is they have their glass come back a little bit like this on the Metabones, and then if your back focus gets off, you just go in and you adjust it with a little screwdriver tool that you can unscrew and then kind of adjust it to match what your focus needs to be. But that's super annoying, and I find it frustrating to do. This is awesome because it doesn't change anything other than making my field of view wider. I don't even have to think about this thing anymore. Now, do note, and like I said at the beginning, it is a chore and really nerve-wracking to put it in. And just be really smart about making sure you have canned air, blowing that thing off, making sure there's no dust even close to your sensor. When you pull that glass out, make sure you clean it really well with some lens cleaner. I used latex gloves. Just be really, really smart and careful. If you do use this adapter, it's fantastic once it's in, but getting it in is terrifying. It really was. But hey, I did it, so you could do it. Anyway, if you guys have any other comments or are interested in this, again, there's the links in the description below. Also links in the description to all the equipment that I use. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And be sure to subscribe and check out my other reviews and other videos. Thanks, guys.